and welcome back to Just Be True, a soul led podcast. And this podcast was born from a deep desire to live authentically, to strip away the mask, the expectations, the old stories, and remember who we truly are. In each episode, we explore what it means to live in harmony with your soul's truth through real conversations, intuitive guidance, and powerful moments of reflection. And so today we are here to talk about the understanding the quiet internal shifts after survival mode. So there's a season that doesn't get talked about enough. It's the season where nothing is falling apart, nothing dramatic is happening, there's no crisis to solve, and yet something inside of you feels very different. You look around and you think, everything's fine. So why do I feel so unsettled? If that's where you are right now, or something that you have been recently experienced, and even if you found yourself in a whirlwind of change, this episode is definitely for you. Today, we are going to talk about what happens after survival mode, the quiet internal shift that comes when the urgency fades. But the identity you built during that urgency still hasn't quite caught up with you. Survival mode is sneaky. Sorry. Sometimes it looks like chaos. Sometimes it looks like high performance. Sometimes it looks like being the strong one, the capable one, the one who handles everything. When you're in survival mode, that's what you do. You do all of those things, right? You deal with the chaos, the high performance, being the strong one, the capable one, the one that makes everything happen. And in survival mode, you move because you have to. Your nervous system is activated. Your focus is sharp. You are solving, you are fixing, managing, holding. And often you don't even realize it until you're in the middle of it, or until you're done with it. Like the survival mode is done and over with. And that's when you realize how tight and wound up you've been, right? And because survival mode can last for months, years, sometimes decades, and then one day it softens, here's the part no one is prepared for is when that crisis ends, when the financial stress stabilizes, when the relationship tension shifts, when the job transition settles. Your body doesn't immediately relax. It doesn't trust calm right away because calm feels very unfamiliar, right? You've been running on purpose, on responsibility, on urgency, and now there's a space, and space can feel disorienting. You might notice your motivation dips, the feel of emotional for no clear reason, right? You may question yourself even more. You may question your decisions, or you may even question your emotions or how you're feeling about something. You may feel restless, even when nothing is wrong. And your mind might say, why am I like this? I should be better by now. The stress is over. We got that maintained. That is done and over with, right? What you're going through isn't regression, it's an integration. Integration is what happens when your body finally feels safe enough to stop performing strength. It's the exhale you've postponed for years. It's the tears that didn't have time to fall. And it's the nervous system asking, can we rest now? And sometimes rest feels terrifying when you're when you've known it all along? When the only thing that you can remember for the past months and decades and years is motion, stress, overwhelmingness, and overdoing? That rest can feel very terrifying. So, integration is what happens when your body and your nervous system finally has a space to process what your mind pushed through. When you were surviving, you didn't have the luxury of feeling everything. You had to move, you had to make decisions, you had to handle it, you had to stay upright, keeping things going and keeping you in motion. And now that that urgency is softened, like that urgency is no longer there, your body is saying, okay, now can we process? And processing doesn't always look productive. It can look like sudden waves of emotion, fatigue that you can't explain, questioning decisions that you've already made, and craving stillness, but also feeling uncomfortable in it. Many of us have had moments where we had stillness or downtime and felt out of sorts, in strange territory, and unable to appreciate the moments of stillness to relax, to truly allow the body to release the tension that it's been holding on to. Integration in your system reorganizes itself through safety instead of pressure. Imagine that. Is your identity loosening the grip of who you had to be so you can discover who you are without bracing? And that can feel messy and unstable because the old drive, the one that fueled by adrenaline or proving, is starting to dissolve. And the new drive, the one rooted in alignment and calm, hasn't fully formed yet. So you sit in this strange in between space, less reactive, less urgent, but not fully clear. And that space is sacred. It's where the nervous system learns to pace, and that peace is not a threat. It's where your energy has the time to recalibrate. And it's where your next vision of yourself begins to take shape quietly without forcing it. And it's okay to take time here to breathe in with that calm. So here's what's really happening. The version of you that knew how to survive is gently stepping back. And that identity can be hard to release. Maybe you were the fixer, the provider, the strong one, the overachiever, the one who never falls apart. Who are you when you are not needed in the same way? Who are you when you are not proving your resiliency? And who are you when strength isn't required, only presence? These questions can feel very destabilizing. And it's also where freedom lives. That version of you that was so powerful, but she was built for a specific season, right? And now something softer is emerging, something that doesn't operate from urgency, something that doesn't need to be proven, something that doesn't thrive on pressure. And that can feel like losing yourself, but it isn't. It's a becoming who you are meant to be, calm, collective, mindful, and relaxed in life. You were never created to be in survival mode and on high alert. So I completely understand being in that survival mode. I lived it for decades and way, way too long. I am actually still in the process of regulating to this new version of who I am. And even though this process can be emotional at times, and believe me, it is, I am enjoying the new version of me that is arising. And I am enjoying observing this process. So, some of you may know, I worked for the federal government for 22 years until I was laid off last April. And when I left my 22-year career, I was actually relieved. I felt the best I had felt in a long time. I walked out of there in an amazing mood. I was happy. I felt uplifted. I had coworkers calling me crying and I was like on top of the world and they just couldn't talk to me because I wasn't in that sad um I wasn't in that space, right? I actually felt relieved. I know that that layoff was a blessing and something in my soul had been yearning for. But the aftermath of that, the allowing myself to pause, to slow down, and the recalibration, that part has been the challenge. I was used to being on all the time. I was a leader, I was a supervisor, I was a decision maker in my career. I oversaw staff, contracts, grants, organizational budgets. It was a tremendous amount of responsibility, and it was an atmosphere in which I thrived in. I was a go getter and I loved being in the know and the go to person that everyone could depend on. I loved that and I thrived in that space. I was trained to think quickly, to respond immediately, to anticipate problems before they even surfaced. My body was conditioned to stay alert. And then, and then it was all gone. No staff meetings, no crisis emails, no decisions waiting for me to take care of. And my nervous system did not know what to do with that. And still doesn't sometimes. And there is no time frame of how quickly we should regulate from being in that survival mode, being in that state of relaxation and being. There's no timeline. There are moments when I catch myself expecting to be on, scanning for the urgencies, waiting for something to require me to be in that on mood the same way. But there is no on, not anymore. Now, you may be saying, Summer, come on, look at everything you're doing. You have a business, you have a podcast, you do blogs, you do classes, you're constantly creating. And you're absolutely right. But there's a difference. Before, I was operating on responsibility, on the having to, the requirement to, the expectation of. But now I operate from resonance. I operate from what feels right. Before, I was operating on responsibility, pure responsibility. Before, my energy was outward and driven. Now it's aligned and flowing. I don't feel overwhelmed. I don't feel pressured. This all feels very easy and very welcoming. What I'm building now often, like what I'm building now feels different in my body. It doesn't feel like bracing. It doesn't feel like proving. It doesn't feel like I'm carrying any weight. Today, what I'm doing feels like expression, very fulfillment, and stepping out and doing things new. It feels like I'm moving because I want to, not because I have to. And that shift from pressure to purpose takes recalibration and it takes time. So when my system flares up, and believe me, it does, when anxiety shows up without a reason, I don't shame it. I pause. I breathe through it. Deep breaths, deep belly breaths, slow integrated breathing. And I remind myself, I am safe in this new space. I connect with that anxiety, that overwhelming feeling, and I ask, where is it coming from? And I listen, realizing that this is not collapse, but understanding that this is expansion without force. And I am still learning how to live in this space, you know, and I don't strive for perfection, accolades, or awards. I strive for fulfillment and doing what I am called to do and doing what feels right for my soul. And I give you permission to do the exact same thing. So, there can also be grief in this space, grief from the adrenaline, grief from the version of you who held everything together, grief from the identity that gave you structure. And even if you don't want that life back, even if you're very grateful that it's over and you can't even imagine going back, there's still a letting go that has to take place. And that letting go can feel like floating in between those two worlds, not who you were, not who you're fully becoming. You're just kind of in the middle. And that middle space, again, is very sacred, even if it feels uncomfortable. It's very sacred. And it's where you're adjusting and learning and becoming the new version of you. And allowing that grief to flow is so important. Don't ignore it. Don't shame it. Be with it and allow it. When we live in survival mode long enough, our nervous system begins to equate safety with alertness. Your system learned that being kept alert kept you safe. Being needed kept you valued. Being productive kept you secure. So when things get quiet, your body can begin to whisper, are we missing something? Is something about to go wrong? Like we're waiting for that next shoe to drop. So when things come down and the body can interpret that as unfamiliarity, and that unfamiliar can feel very unsafe. This is why you might create problems in your mind. You might feel anxious when things are quiet. You might want to look for something to fix. Your body is recalibrating. This is not weakness. This is not failure. This is rewriting. And this phase requires gentleness. So please give yourself grace as you're moving through this change. So instead of forcing clarity, instead of demanding motivation, instead of trying to figure out what's next, what if you allowed this to be a transition, a repattering, a resting? What if nothing's wrong? Imagine that. What if your system is simply learning how to exist without bracing? Oh, that feels like a breath of fresh air. There is strength in the softness. There is power in not pushing. And there is wisdom in letting your next self arrive slowly. No need to rush. Be in that flow of allowance and acceptance and get comfortable with the stillness and with the quiet. This is often the space where people come to me, not because something's broken, but because something is shifting. The urgency is gone, but the identity hasn't quite caught up. And in energy work and sound baths and nervous system support through counseling and through Reiki and through, my spiritual life coaching, what we're really doing is helping the body feel safe enough to soften. We're not fixing, we're stabilizing. We're allowing that integration. And sometimes that's the most important work here. So I say, find you someone that you can work with, someone that you trust, someone that resonates with you, and allow your body, your nervous system to go through this transition of healing and stabilizing. So if you're listening right now, notice your shoulders, notice your jaw. Notice if you're subtly bracing. Are you holding tension in these areas? Now take a slow, deep breath in. Long exhale out. Let your body practice being safe for 10 seconds. That's it. 10 seconds. And if you're in a season where nothing is falling apart, but you feel different, uncertain, quieter, more emotional, or even less driven than before, it's okay. Allow yourself to pause. Place one hand on your heart, two if you need to, and remind yourself this is not a breakdown. This is recalibration. You survived. And now you're learning to live without bracing. And that may be the bravest work you've ever done. It takes time, and it is perfectly okay. And you are allowed. So if this episode resonated with you, I invite you to sit with it gently this week. And if you need support during your integration season, you can find my sessions and offering on my website, just-be-true.com. I encourage you to find someone to work with, someone that you feel safe with, someone that you're comfortable with. It doesn't have to be me, but it needs to be someone. Even if it's a friend, just to help you work through it. It's perfectly fine. So we're still in season 1. Next episode is episode 3, Grief, when love, life, and identity change. And that's going to be released on March 12th, so please be on the lookout for it. The newsletter that supports episode 2 will come out next Tuesday, which I believe is March 3rd. So if you haven't signed up for my newsletter or my blogs, check out the show notes. The show notes are going to have links to my website, the newsletter sign up, and so much more. So to support your journey and your navigation through life and what's going on. So just be true to you. The rest will align, I promise. And believe in this next version of you that is continuing to unfold. And until next time, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And I will see you on March 12th. Bye.